Ko māhuhu ki te rangi i te waka. Ko takaparawhau te papa whenua e horana. Ko waitemata te moana. Ko ngā tiwha atua te iwi. Ko tuperiri te tupuna. Ko tumu whenua te whare tupuna. Ko Tāmaki Makaurau e ngunguru nei. Au, au e ha. Matou mihi tua rangi I te rohe nei o Tāmaki Makaurau, Tāmaki herenga waka. O te rohe tēnei e whakahaere ana I te pōti whakahirahira o te wā.
Welcome to this Tāmaki Makaurau by-election debate, special, brought to you by Te Ao Māori News and the Hui. The last debate and the only live television debate between the Labour Party's Peeni Henare and the Pāti Māori's Oriini Kaipara.
They are, of course, the two leading candidates for this by-election, and they are representing the two parties currently in Parliament. E o kurangatira, tēnā kōrua. And joining me, of course, as you can see, ko taku hoa whakataki I tēnei pō. Ara ko ia tēnā kei te mātāmua ngā whakaaro te ao tōranga pū ki te wharepāre mata. She is the senior political reporter for Te Ao Māori News. Māni tōno, Māni, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, and of course this is Julian Wilcox. No need for his introduction. Tēnā rā koutou katoa. Let's hear now from our candidates. We undertook a bit of a coin toss before, and our first candidate with their 1 minute introduction kōrero is Te Pāti Māori's candidate, Oriini Kaipara. Hei a koe te wā.
Ka titiro ake au ki runga ki raro ki waenga nui ka ihe ake rā he oranga mo tōku Māori tanga e au e kei tēnei tukura nei kei tērā tukura nei kei te kora hatonu pēr e pore mai ana e kauara e tukuna ki ariro te mana me te tapu te ihi me te wehi ka ihe ke atu ki te whenua ti atu ki te pō, tihei Māori ora. Ko wairaka tēnei e tuake nei, kia whakahau ake au, kia whakata ane au I ahau. Ngāti whātua o rākei, e mihi atu nei kia koutou. E kore rawa te puna o mihi, e memeha, e mimiti. I te nui o te whakaute kia koutou, ko koutou ngā mana whenua ki konei, ki tumutumu whenua marae, e rāhiri nei, I te iti, I te rahi, I roto katoa I ngā tikanga. Very quickly in Te Reo Pākehā, I know we have a time limit, so I will limit my time in Te Reo Pākehā. For the purpose of Te Reo Māori, I am Oriini Kaipara, I am the Māori Pāti, Te Pāti Māori's candidate, contesting Tāmaki Makaurau. Kua te tuatahi no tūhoi, e tohe ana, kia kuhu atu ki roto o pāremata ki te whawhai mō tātou katoa.
Tēnā koe, Oriini. Tēnā koe.
Ka pai.
Peeni Henare.
Tēnā tātou e oku rahi e oku whanaunga o Ngāti Whātua e tiaki ana I tēnei taumata kōrero. Kāti, kia koe te tuahine e takutai, hoki wairua mai rā ki roto I ēnei mahi. Ki roto anō hoki I te rohe e ngākau nui tia ana e koe, hoki wairua mai, hoki wairua mai, hoki wairua mai. Ka whakahokia mai ngā rārangi kōrero kia tātou te hunga ora tēnā tātou. I'm very clear that I'm asking and seeking the mandate for Tāmaki Makaurau to be the voice and the representative for Tāmaki Makaurau. We've been out talking to whānau right across this beautiful city of ours, and we know there are many challenges, but we also know there are opportunities. I know that I've been able to deliver those in the past, and we know we can do more. I'm always reminded of the saying of my grandfather, "Kua tawhitike tō koutou haerenga mai ki te kore haere tonu, he nui rawa o koutou mahi ki te kore mahi nui tonu." We are faced by the worst government this world and this country has seen in a long time. We need action now, and I'm asking for your vote.
Tēnā koe, Peeni, tēnā kōrua. Ia kōrua kōrua. We've got a lot of questions to get through. We want to get through as many questions as we can. Peeni Henare, you are asking for the vote again. It was a vote you asked for in 2023 when you were the MP, and you lost. Why should people vote for you again now?
Thousands of people voted for me in that election in 2023, and I believe I still have the skill set, the desire, and of course the determination to deliver for Tāmaki Makaurau. We did a lot of mahi in the time that I held the seat. We know that the past 2 years have been difficult. We remember our tuahine takutai, but we've got another challenge again. And the challenge is making this government a one-term government. And I believe I've got the skill set to deliver for the whānau again here in Tāmaki.
Okay, Peeni Henare talks about skill set, Oriini Kaipara. You, by comparison, have relatively no political experience at either a local, regional or national level. So why would the people of Tāmaki Makaurau vote for you?
Tēnā koe te rā pātai, just because I am not a seasoned career politician. Make no mistake about it, being born Māori, you are born political. I have been political for 42 years of my life. From the moment my mum gave birth to me, I was born into no other choice but to fight for te reo. That is te kohanga reo, that is kura kaupapa Māori, that is also being a mother of children who have no access because of a lack of capacity within our kura and kohanga reo systems to embrace and engage every Māori that is missing out under this government and under previous governments. I represent a lot of wahine out there, a lot of wahine single mums, teenage mothers, also mothers who are doing it hard here in Tāmaki Makaurau. I also have become recently a kuia, so I have lived experience. Never assume that just because somebody, and it represents every single Māori, not just in the room, but right across Aotearoa, just because you are not seasoned or a career politician or in sitting at decision-making tables does not mean you are less than or that you are incapable of. Your real-life experience, lived experiences as Māori, informed decisions that should be made at Parliament, in Parliament. Nō reira, koira tāku.
You've been on this, you've had a few debates now. There's been a lot of talk around policy and those sorts of things. One of the parts I've been hearing a lot and put to you guys is around what law would you repeal? So, talking about those words and being put into action, what are some of the policies you can stand by, te Pāti Māori Oriini, if you were to be elected?
Tēnā koe, I do have a long list here, and it's actually really in reference to the legislation that's been fast-tracked by this government. We have constitution legislation being fast-tracked, so I'll go through it quickly. Regulatory Standards Bill, that is what we're repealing. Marine and Coastal Area Amendment Bill. Local Government Amendment Bill, where it makes it almost impossible to establish and maintain a Māori ward. We are standing against the changes being pushed against Māori. Also in hauora spaces, the Pai Ora Amendment Bill. Disestablishment of the Māori Health Authority. We are pushing against that. Smoke-free. Bringing that back as an aspiration, but it's not just an aspiration. As a former smoker myself, it was that ture that actually helped a lot of my whānau and myself get off the ciggies and quit. So we need kaupapa, more kaupapa like that to ensure that, when Māori are well, when we are thriving, Aotearoa New Zealand is a much better place.
Peeni Henare, ko tewa pātai rā no kia koe.
Ko te nuinga o ngā kōrero tōku tuahine, most of the legislation she spoke to were introduced by Labour. In our time, from the Pai Ora legislation, we've also made it clear that we would repeal the RSP, and we've got a very clear vision about what it is we believe will take Aotearoa forward, and we're looking forward to that challenge again once we boot this lot out.
Tēnā koe. Akātia te iwi ke ita tunu mai rā ki tā tātou kaupapa. Taro kau I hoana, ko te nui o te utu. E ora ai te tangata ki tēnei whenua, ki tēnei takiwā, te iho nui.
Next, we discuss the cost of living on this Tāmaki Makaurau by-election special debate after this short break. Kia mau tonu mai.
It's never too late to try something new.
Ka taina tātou e te ao Māori.
Lau tuara ki Māori Plus me whakaata Māori.
Kania te atu e, kua wei hotia he nawe.
They had to do something to stop Māori taking back what had been stolen.
It was not get it done at any price.
There was a lot of anxiety.
And it's fair to say that there have been winners and losers.
The government became more actually aware of the consequences of that through the introduction of the quota management system.
Mana tangata versus mana moana.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
The customary right is the number one right.
Te puaka, te pukunati, ka tiro au I taku rahitanga,
Ka whakamā.
E tata ki te mate huka, e whakapōrere ana te wā i au e moi ana.
Ka kaimaha au i ngā kai kino.
E whai tēnei pukanga puku, ka mate au.
Ōku wawata nui, ko te oranga tonutanga.
Kei te karanga mai a inia, ke haere au.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Best middleweight on planet Earth.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Izzy, what are you scared you won't be able to do?
You can't tell me how to insult this person.
Listen to me. Who is Israel Adesanya?
You're not going to control me.
Valvaki, I love you, man.
That's a toll. It's on your soul.
Yeah.
Who's Israel Adesanya? He's the middleweight champion of the world.
Ko koutou e nei ko hoki mai anō ki te Pāho tangahaka hira pautakaha ko te taupatua Tāmaki Makaurau I te wā Pāti. This is the Tāmaki Makaurau by-election special brought to you by Te Ao Māori News and The Hui.
Ko tētahi o ngā take nui Tāmaki Makaurau, ko ngā take utu. I puta atu mātou ki te kōrero ki ngā kaipōti o te rohe, anei o rātou whakaaro.
We had one young person living in a tent. He told us that because of the cost of living, because he couldn't afford one, because he was a young person, he wasn't accepted into a whare, which meant that he lived in a tent. We're in 2025 and we've got young people living in tents.
If you had not moved into here, he Pāpiringa, where do you think you would be?
In an overcrowded home, just unmotivated, unwilling, feeling unable, just stuck.
You know, I've gone to homes where you've got 8 children, no beds. You know, you've got homeless people everywhere, and they talk about that they're making an impact. Go and have a look around K Road. You know, go and have a look around your local neighbourhoods. There's no impact being made. What this government's done is created a perfect storm where there's more and more and more need. There's more need than ever, but there's less support.
These sort of organisations is what we need as rangatahi. We feel really lost, especially with the cost of living. The cost of living is really hard on us.
When Takutai was here, we spent many hui with her, and she promised us that she was going to make her members' bill a duty to assist legislation. What that means is that young people can't exit out of care into homelessness. So we want to see resources put to young people sooner rather than later.
What I would want to see is I want to see them after they're in. That's my, what I would like to see, and my challenge to them as well. All this politicking you're doing now, do the same thing. Everything you're promising, come down here when you're in and deliver. Come down here when you're in and deliver.
Some incredibly powerful kōrero there. Oriini, I'll come to you. If you were to be voted in by Tāmaki Makaurau, what would be the things you'd want to focus on in terms of help alleviating the cost of living crisis within Tāmaki?
Well, Te Pāti Māori is definitely intent on getting rid of GST on all kai, so tax off all kai. Not just that, returning schools, lunches in schools, that was really critical, not just for tamariki but for families and also our teachers. Te Pāti Māori is the only party that will have no PAYE tax on the first $30,000 on low-income whānau. So what that means is, if you don't know, almost 70% of all New Zealanders are earning $60,000 or less. That is the living wage. You take that and strip it back and you'll understand how much whānau in Tāmaki Makaurau are earning per week. Does that cover the cost of rent? Not at all. So we can't even talk about kai and stuff. So what we're saying is take off the tax on the first $30,000 that is earned by every worker in Aotearoa. So it's not just exclusively to Māori, but Māori gain to benefit a lot by having $4,000 left in their pocket.
Okay, get that policy. What do you do on day one, though?
On
you
day
can't
one.
do that on day one. What are you going to do on day one?
I think if we listen carefully to the kōrero there, One particular person stands out, and we've met her, both Peeni and I, and that is Mahera Mihi. What is instrumental is actually not coming and telling you how I'm going to fix your problems. It's actually coming in and genuinely listening to all our communities, not just applying a one-size-fits-all solution, because we know that Māori issues are not separated, they're holistic and they require community and collaborative leadership. That is what I'm committed to doing.
Our whānau need immediate action. We've done some really good stuff in the past to alleviate the cost of pressures that are on those whānau, things like subsidising transport, things like building more houses to make housing more accessible to whānau. We in government have built more houses than any other government since the 1950s, and I'm proud of that record. On day one, governments can choose to do these things immediately. We've got a track record of doing it. We can do it again to alleviate those pressures on our whānau, lift wages, make sure people are paid what they are deserved, and give them opportunities for their own mana motuhake.
Getting rid of GST on fruit and veggies, though, that feels like an immediate thing that could relieve some of that pressure. Is that something that Labour would support?
What we support is introducing more competition into this space. When we were last in power, we were working closely with iwi to introduce a third grocery provider into the market to allow our whānau to experience cheaper kai and to make sure that iwi are part of delivering the answer for our whānau.
So are you talking about a Kiwi Kai supermarket chain?
We're talking about iwi-led New Zealand chain that will supply our whānau.
Okay, would you support that, Oriini Kaipara? Would you support a Kiwi Kai supermarket chain to help break the duopoly of the major players?
Te Pāti Māori is definitely backing an iwi-led kaupapa Māori's tiriti-centric approach to the duopoly to solve and to resolve the duopoly over our supermarkets.
Okay, there's been a much talked about thing for the last election and now. It's called the capital gains tax. Labour considered it, didn't do it. Are you going to bring in a capital gains tax, Peeni Henare?
We've been clear we'll make our policy announcement before the end of the year. That is the policy process that the Labour Party works by. Nobody expected us to have a by-election because of the sad passing of our tuahine. We want to get it right. It's important to make sure when you're making such decisions, you get it right with all the information at hand to make the right decision. So you'll hear from us very soon on that.
But can you expect people to go out and vote for you if they don't have any clear assurances of what you are going to campaign for, your party going to campaign for the general election?
That's why we've got to get it right, to make sure that those policies are clear and understood by our whānau. It's easy to say things when in opposition, it's easy to promise too much, but it's actually a lot harder to make sure we get these things right, so when we do boot this government out, we've got a plan ready to rock and roll.
Okay, let's talk specifics on Tāmaki Makaurau. Ke hāngai kia Tāmaki Makaurau. He harawa te tahi mea, hāngai kia Tāmaki Makaurau. Pene me te pene heni. Tūtū te pene heni. Ngā whānau hare ana ki kō, puta, i Tāmaki Makaurau. Kei reiro o whakaaro e hare ana I tēnei wā, kia māmā te utu pene heni?
Ana, he māmā ahau, whaia, e whā toko whā ku tamariki, ko tahi taku mokopuna no reira me haere marunga waka ki ngā wā e tika ana. Prominent to me as a mum, as a kuia, as an auntie, and so I know I can relate to those of us who are struggling here in Tāmaki Makaurau to make ends meet. First thing I look at, really, beyond the kai, beyond the table and beyond the fridge, is actually the transport. As a mum of a Tamaiti and intermediate, public transport is so outrageous. It costs an arm and a leg. And even for those over in Waiheke who we visited, we had the honour of visiting yesterday at Piritahi Marae, and transport is atrocious for the residents on that motu, on te motu o Ārairoa. So what we're saying is no cost, make it free for all our tamariki up to the ages of 18. Everybody in Kura deserves free public transport because it's too hard to make ends meet. Kaumātua also, you know. And what is kaumātua? It's not 65, 75, it's 60. The age for kaumātua right now in Te Ao Māori, given the disparities across health, should be 60. So we want to lower that as well for our kaumātua. So free public transport for our whānau, not being exclusive but inclusive of all people who are living below the poverty line.
Is that something the Labour Party could get behind? Free public transport, as well as, you know, subsidies for petrol, subsidies for public transport as well?
Ko tutuki ke mātou I tērā tū āhuatanga. When we were in power, What we did was we took off a number of levies that are already on fuels here in Tāmaki Makaurau. We also relieved the pressure for those who had to register their cars under certain times. We also subsidised the public. These are decisions a government can make. We've done those in the past. We've got a track record of doing that, and we can do more of that, which is why I'm proud of our track record, but know that we've got more work to do there.
Okay. Ko te taha ki te hunga ka hore whiwhi mahi ana I ai. According to Stats New Zealand, the unemployment rate for Māori is closing in on 10%, 9.2 in the year to March. Rangatahi Māori are heading to 20%. How do you change the flow? How do you change that terrible statistic, specifically Oriini Kaipara?
I love the word you're using, Julian. It's called change. We have to change our approaches to achieve change, real transformational change. We can't just be relying on the rhetoric of either side. We actually, in the change, it's called collaboration, and the collaboration really is giving true effect to what Te Tiriti promises, mana motuhake, and what that means is that equal, it's co-governance in its truest form, but co-governance right across the board at local and regional and national level. What that also means, Julian, is actually investing directly into hapu, into whānau, into spaces. What that actually was whānau ora. So Te Pāti Māori wants to reinstate whānau ora to the true vision that was initiated by the late Kahurangi Kārianaturia, $1 billion.
Are you saying you do not support the current whānau ora commissioning agencies? Is that what you are saying?
What Te Pāti Māori is vehemently against is the watering down of what whānau ora was first intentionally proposed, and that was into a very long time ago. And I understand that there has been a lot of great mahi, but look where all the kaimahi are. It has been dismantled to the point where it's no longer recognisable because the people are out on the street protesting for their jobs back. We're talking about how do we get jobs back. We have to stop the exodus. We have to stop a lot of things.
Unemployment, just as we've heard, how do we address that? Why are so many of our young Māori out of work, and what would you do in order to help that?
When we were in power, we trained and gave opportunities to more young people to do apprenticeships than we've seen before in the history. So what we want to be very clear is we must provide those opportunities for our young people, and we do that by investing in the infrastructure that this country so desperately needs. Here in Tāmaki Makaurau, we know that the water infrastructure, there are challenges. We know the roading infrastructure, there are challenges. This government has stripped money away from building more houses in Tāmaki Makaurau than we've seen in a long time. So if we invest correctly in those spaces, we give our whānau opportunities to not only seek training, but also have the employment opportunities that they richly deserve. We've also been very clear on lifting wages. We must do that so that they can live their mana motuhake.
Haere tonu ana te kōrero e te iwi e mura tonu ana te ahi o te kōrero a. He kōrero anō o te haere ake nei e a te kōwhitawhita i te ahi o te taupatupatu.
We are talking House on our Tāmaki Makaurau by-election special after this short break. Kia mua tonu mai. After...
It's never too late to try something new.
Ka kataina tātou e te ao Māori.
Lau tuara ki Māori Plus me whakaata Māori.
Kania te atu e, kua we hotia he nawe.
They had to do something to stop Māori taking back what had been stolen.
It was not get it done at any price.
There was a lot of anxiety.
And it's fair to say that there have been winners and losers.
The government became more actually aware of the consequences of that through the introduction of the quota management system.
Mana tangata versus mana moana.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
The customary right is the #1 right.
Te puaka, te pukunati, ka tiro au I taku rahitanga, ka whakamā.
E tataki te mate huka, e whakapōrere ana te wā I au e moi ana.
Ka kaimaha au I ngā kai kino.
E whai tēnei pukanga puku, ka mate au.
Ōku wawata nui, ko te oranga tonutanga.
Kei te karanga mai a inia, ke haere au.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Best middleweight on planet Earth.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Izzy, what are you scared you won't be able to do?
You can't tell me how to insult this person. Listen to me.
Who's Israel Adesanya?
You're not gonna control me.
Balvaki, I love you, man.
That's a toll. It's on your soul.
Yeah.
Who's Israel Adesanya? He's the middleweight champion of the world.
No hoki mai anō te matawhaura o te tau kumikimi tō rangapū o te wā ia te ao Māori News me te hui. Ko te pōti motuhake a Tāmaki Makaurau te whakahairitia a ko Peeni Henare, raua ko Oriini Kaipara ngā kaitono.
Ko te haura tērā e māpuna mai ana i ngā hinengaro o ngā iwi o Tāmaki Makaurau. Kia te huri ake tata ki ngā whakaaro e haka puakena e etahi o ngā iwi o te takiwaha.
The health system seems to be currently shaking and in trouble. The evidence is pretty damning that it's not meeting the needs of many Māori people.
I am studying a Bachelor of Health Science. Personally, as a Māori tauira, I'd say the equity for our people and receiving the same opportunities and resources that everyone else from wealthy communities receive.
Have it so that everyone can have access to the healthcare system without long waiting times.
A lot of treatments and stuff are still not funded very well, not really easy to access. And as like a young woman, our like needs kind of get looked over a bit when we go into like doctor's offices and everything like that. So just getting like a medical professional to actually pay attention and give us proper care.
What's good about Tāmaki is it's very diverse. On the other hand, that's actually some of its weakness. The most disappointing, I think, about Auckland is when I want to see Māori people and you walk through Queen Street and the only Māori people you see are sleeping on blankets, sitting on the sidewalk, and I find that incredibly depressing.
I work in CBD, in construction, and every day I park next to City Mission, and like it's really, really bad. There's a lot of mental health on the streets where it shouldn't be. There's also my father suffers from mental health too, so I can kind of relate. Yeah, I wish there was more help out there for them. If I could ask them a question, I would say, what's the plan? I know there's initiatives and all that out there, but it seems they're more like non-profit or non-government organisations doing a bit more work than government organisations. Like, yeah.
We've had so many restructures in the last 10 years. Lots of people are losing their jobs, the way we're funding things, the movement of whānau ora, all these sorts of things gives a real sense of unease around where we're going.
Just keep thinking about our people and what you can do better for them.
How do they see the best way forward to get some stability in the health system that provides the best outcomes for Māori?
How do you achieve that without systemic upheaval that Manuhiri were just discussing in that clip?
Well, what we know is the plan from this government is to defund, destabilise and privatise. That's what they're doing to our health system, and what that'll do is strip away the access our whānau desperately need to the healthcare system that they also deserve. We want to be very clear. In my time, and I'm very proud to have been the minister that built Te Aka Whaiora to address those systemic issues that we see with respect to the equity our people require for health. We also gave significant funding to Māori health providers right across this country, Tāmaki Makaurau included. We can do more, but we know that the blueprint is there. And that's why I believe for equity, we must have a Māori health authority. We must drive health care into the communities where it's needed the most.
No re mea ana koe, kawanatanga mai ana koe, ko hoki mai anō a Te Aka Whaiora.
I tū a Chris Hipkins ki runga i te marae o Waitangi, te whakautu i te pātai, ai.
Me pehe utu ai, hore he rawa, hore he rauimi.
Kaore, kei reira ngā rauimi, kei reira anō hoki i te pūtea hei tautoko aki i tēnei kaupapa. What's clear is this government has decided to give money to landlords instead of funding our health system properly so that our whānau get what they need. We can do better and we will do better.
But we talk about, I guess, that upheaval that you'd want to avoid, and so many people having to go, have to wait longer, and there's another kind of system change, and then another repeal and another reinstatement of something. Is that going to best serve the inequities in which Māori face?
Well, we have to have that transformational change, which is why we embarked on that health reform. It was a challenge through COVID-19, but we had to do it. We had the opportunity to do it, and we stand by that change because it was needed.
Tēnā koe. Oriini Kaipara, me ana te Pāti Māori, ko tahi piriona tāra. Ka raro i te kaupapa here hauora a te Pāti Māori. E hangai ana tērā ko tahi piriona kiha?
Ki whānau ora, anei te kōrero. Rima piriona tāra, ne, ka ko paua ka waiho, ne, ka hoatu, hei whakaraura i te hauora ki ngā Māori, so I'll translate that. So Te Pāti Māori is committed to investing $1 billion back into whānau ora and $5 billion towards Māori health so that we can establish the Māori Health Authority. And kia toitu ai tērā, e tika ana he hua nui ka puta kia tātou katoa a Māori nei. And how that's going to happen is our tax policy and our wealth tax policy. Te Pāti Māori is committed to taxing the rich because it's not fair. It's never going to be fair that the whānau living in poverty, 68% of our entire country, the majority are Māori, are paying for the perks of the privileged few. Hands up in here if you're part of the 3%. If you are ka pai, we are not against success, Julian. We are not against people succeeding in their own rights. What we are vehemently against is that our whānau struggling are continuing to pay for the privileges of the select few.
Engari, me ana te nui ngā te hunga whairawa. Me ana te nui ngā te hunga whairawa, he utu ko hai, he utu pū hai noi honei te.
Ka kōrero pērā te hunga whairawa, i te mea kaore anō kia rongo, kaore anō rātou kia rongo i tēnei mea te tuakokatanga. Kaore anō kia rongo i te haunga, ne, o te kore noho whaiwhare i tō ake whenua. The privilege will come out and bat against and discriminate and devalue anything that comes from a party, the only party in Parliament that first prioritises Māori before it does anybody else, because that is what our purpose is.
Okay, me rimba piri ona, me rimba kaiho. Me mea ki te paki ka roa tēnei wahanga. Nā reira tēnā koutou te mahi Māori. Hoeno, he rimba piri ona, nō reira, e whakaitonu ana koe, kia tūtonu te kura whakangungu tāku te hau ki Waikato, ka
Tino.
Nō reira mea nā koe, he rimba piri ona tāra, me ngā piri ona tāra whakatū i te kura whakangungu.
Anei ke. Here's the reality of it. Every year the government is required to distribute the amounts, he tahua ne, tata ana ki te rua rau piriona, tērā tahua. Ne, how te hua ka puta ki te Māori, and we're talking about everything right across the board for Māori development. That's housing, that's education, that's infrastructure, that's the whole lot, transport. They tag Māori spending in the entire annual budget. From almost 200 billion, we're getting not even 1%. $500 million is what successive governments, previous governments and this government recognises as a value. That's how much they don't care about Te Ao Māori. They don't value us. What we are saying is it's not even equity, but we are willing and wanting to push for the 20% that Māori should be getting, because we make up 20% of the total population.
We talk about bolstering, te aka whai ora, bolstering whānau ora, but in order to help meet those health inequities, in order to help feed that workforce, we need to create doctors and nurses. We've seen, MAPAS being reviewed. We've seen Waikato, wanting to build a new med school. Is that something that Labour would support, retaining the Waikato Medical School? And would you be supportive of reintroducing MAPAS and those sorts of programs within universities?
The first thing I want to say is that those numbers are incorrect. For example, for Māori housing alone in my time as a minister was $750 million just for Māori housing. Goes to show the investment that can be made when the government is willing to do that. With respect to the way we support our workforce, of course we'll look into the case of what's happening at the Waikato University. The problem we have, though, is the way that that's come about. It looks like cronyism. It looks like friends looking after friends, and this government supporting those particular ends. So of course we need to develop our workforce. My son works in the health workforce and constantly talks to me about those struggles. We must invest in the health workforce before we can deliver the kinds of outcomes that our whānau deserve. We're committed to doing that. We've done it before. we can do it again.
Okay. Well, let's talk about things like fast food venues. There's an issue actually not far from this marae. Right, the establishment of a new fast food venue that this community doesn't want. How do you employ or implement the views of this community in a situation like that when the government doesn't listen? You could be the MP representing this takiwa.
Yeah, there are two ways to do that. The first one is through central government, where we can make sure that we support the local development plans that are pushed by the council. We know that the council determines the local alcohol policy plan. We know that the council also determines where these businesses go in this beautiful city of ours. We must put pressure on those spaces so that our whānau get the community they want and the community they deserve. We've seen it far too much, and what we know in Tāmaki Makaurau is the leafy suburbs don't get touched, but of course the very big Māori suburbs, the suburbs where all of our whānau are, and tangata no te moana nui a kiwa, they're the ones that are getting all of these bad things for them, and that's being driven by the council. The job is here to make sure we advocate for that community so that the council stops doing that to our people.
Talking about health, gambling within our communities, online gambling is a huge issue for Māori, especially young Māori, as well as social media influencers promoting it. There's a bill in front of the House at the moment around online casino gambling. Is that something that Te Pāti Māori supports, or what changes do you need in order to help, help problem gambling?
Anything that is hurting our whānau, including online gambling, including sharks out there who are luring our online influencers, for want of a better word, because they can create an easy buck online. Not the influencers, but the companies that are forcing themselves upon our people who are living in vulnerable situations right now. So we are backing, and we are investigating constantly and researching responsible regulations that actually work in tangent with our communities, so not putting it on our communities, but actually sitting at tables alongside whānau hapu iwi and everybody here in Tāmaki Makaurau. Alcohol control, the lot, because when Māori are unwell, Aotearoa New Zealand is never going to be better than what it is.
I arake koe te tei kōrero mo whānau ora I mua nei, mo ngā kai mahi, e rā mea katoa. Just so I'm clear, e tautoko ana koe, I ngā ratonga komihana hou, e whakatutuki ana I te mahere whānau ora I ai ane.
Let me look to my left.
This is Ke mara mai au, ke mara mai au.
E pai ai taku tuku, I taku whakautu, e pātai ana ki ngā, ara te whakautu. Nā ngā kai arahi, puma, kai roto. No, this is not deflecting, this is actually leadership. I'm asking the leaders of Te Pāti Māori, is this actually firmly something? And this is how Māori work. You don't just put your link out on the line, hang it there, and then hope that someone will help you. Ka hore, leadership is right here. E ki ana rāua, ai marika.
Tēnā koe I tō whakatutuki, I te whānau Māori o te huarahi takai koe. Former Minister for Whānau Ora, do you support the current Whānau Ora commissioning agencies charged with delivering Whānau Ora?
Ai marika. When I was the minister, I was always clear that whānau ora had to evolve. It was 10 years old at the time, and I believe that this new evolution is a good evolution for whānau ora to allow whānau like Ngāti Whātua ki Ōrākei drive whānau ora for them and their whānau here in Tāmaki Makaurau. That's the opportunity afforded to this change.
Tēnā kōrua. Ara noa atu ngā kōrero I te iwi e haere ake ana. Taro kaui hoana. Ko te ahurea Māori tērā, te wetekina, I te kōtaka nei.
Ko te hui me te ao Māori News tēnā I te iwi, e whaiti tā ake nei. E whaiti tā ake nei.
It's never too late to try something new.
Ka taina tātou e te ao Māori.
Lau tuara ki Māori Plus me whakaata Māori.
Kangia te atu e, kua we hotia he nawe.
They had to do something to stop Māori taking back what had been stolen.
It was not get it done at any price.
There was a lot of anxiety.
And it's fair to say that there have been winners and losers.
The government became more actually aware of the consequences of that through the introduction of the quota management system.
Mana tangata versus mana moana.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
The customary right is the number one right.
Te poaka, te pukunati, ka tiro au I taku rahitanga, ka whakamā.
He tataki te mate huka, e whakapōrere ana te wā I au e moi ana.
Ka kaimaha au I ngā kai kino.
E whai tēnei pukanga puku, ka mate au.
Ōku wawata nui, ko te oranga tonutanga.
Kei te karanga mai a inia, kia haere au.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Best middleweight on planet Earth.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Izzy, what are you scared you won't be able to do?
You can't tell me how to insult this person. Listen to me.
Who's Israel Adesanya?
You're not gonna control me.
Valvaki, I love you, man.
That's a toll. It's on your soul.
Yeah.
Who's Israel Adesanya? He's the middleweight champion of the world.
Tēnei e te iwi te taukume. He taukume rā nei, wānanga e kōrerororo noi honei, a Tāmaki Makaurau. He wānanga, te harea kenei, I ngā take nui o te wā, ko te ao Māori News, me te hui e kura hautū mai ana I te waka o te kōrero, a ko Peeni Henare rāua, ko Oriini, Kaipara, o nā rā. The issues in this section regarding te reo, te tiriti, Māori rights and interests, have been the focus of this coalition government.
Or lack of focus, maybe. Oriini, we'll come to you on this. What specifically... Thanks, Whānau. Kia koe, Oriini. Looking at, you know, we saw history, precedent setting, hikoi, and record amounts of submissions. But what specifically will you do to stop this government's approach to Māori rights and interests?
Entrench te tiriti, and I'll give you a very clear pathway into how we're going to achieve that, and that is the recommendations left to us by the Mātiki Mai report. That has been the pathway, the model, and it's been enshrined in that report. So we are moving towards entrenching te tiriti by implementing all Mātiki Mai recommendations. We will invest heavily into further consultation with Māori around the building of a new constitutional model that recognises our rangatiratanga and creates a governance model that works for Aotearoa. Lastly, we will also establish a treaty commission to oversee all legislation and to ensure that it is in alignment with te tiriti o Waitangi.
Okay. Me pehea e te tuki ai, I te kaha, aroha mai te whakamahinga I tēnei renu kōrero, I te kaha ka ki māro mai, a te kāwanatanga, e kāwana mai ana I ai ane.
E mārama ana, ka mutu kua au e whakarongo ana kia pēnei, koera te pai o te ako I te wheako, o te whakarongo me te āta whakarongo ne, he mahi nui te hui. He mahi nui te kōrero, engari he mahi Māori roa atu tera. You know, ka ki etahi, too much hui, not enough doi. But if you don't have hui, you have something like a fast track bill without consultation and you have real life problems ahead. So it's really instrumental and imperative that we do go around and have this wānanga, because ultimately we're talking about tino rangatiratanga, and it is not the jurisdiction of parliaments and any politician, budding MP or not, to determine what that is for whānau, hapu, marae and iwi.
When Labor was in government, you know, there was a lot of introduction of te tiriti within legislation across the board. You know, te aka whaiora, as we've already spoken about, that's all been undone. So if you were to be put in power again, how would you entrench te tiriti in our legislation and help overhaul what this coalition government is doing?
Kua kōrero te ao Māori I te kōrero. We've heard the consultation take place through Mātiki Mai and other kaupapa that have been led by iwi and led by Māori. What I'm failing to see here in the plan is the ability to get the other 85 votes that you need in the House to entrench it. 75% is the number, which requires 90 people to vote for it in the House. which means if you build yourself on an island in isolation, you won't have that opportunity to be able to do what we're talking about here. I believe that there is a pathway forward to doing that. We must be able to build those bridges to bring the treaty partner along on the journey in order for us to achieve that. Otherwise, we will be finding ourselves on an island all alone.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Did you support what Ngā Puhi did at Waitangi when they turned their backs on coalition government ministers and deputy prime ministers? Did you support what Ngā Puhi did when they took the microphone away? Because that is not going to help you get the 75% that you're talking about now.
Correct, I did support those because it's going to take all of these actions to continue to send a clear message to this government. The machinery of Parliament and the way that works in order to entrench these things is going to require us to take all of Aotearoa on that journey. And that's the challenge that we all have, and that's the challenge that I'm up to.
Okay. Oriini Kaipara pehene o whakaroa mea nā ia, ko Aotearoa tērā, ka te huri, ki te tekau Māori mapai heneti, e whai anu.
Can I just say something? You know what? If the ACT Party can entrench the Regulatory Standards Bill overnight, then we sure as heck can do our best to entrench Te Tiriti. They're moving very fast while we stand here and talk about things. Look, we can sit here and talk about why we can't do things. That is something that we're constantly hearing a lot of. When we talk about transformational change and change in general, it requires big thinking, it requires thought leadership, and it requires a lot of belief in Māori. Māori have always had solutions, but they've always been unheard or been pushed away or been relegated to a too hard box. This is the party that will prioritise every voice that was silenced in Te Ao Māori, whether it is the likes of Dr. Ranginui Walker, who was here, who did coin the famous phrase, ka whawhai tonu mātou ake ake. That is what we stand for. So I know there is difficulties, but it doesn't mean it's impossible.
Peeni, I overheard you responding to something that Oriini was saying. I just want to give you that right of reply.
Yeah, the RSP isn't entrenched. We've already said that we can repeal it. That's what we can do. The RSP is not entrenched because we've all said right here, right now, that you can repeal it.
Okay. Just on the approach of this current government, said it was going to be laser focused on cost of living. It hasn't done that. Day one, ko koe te me Pānamata, ko koe te me Pānamata. Day one, hea te mahi. Whakakahore i tēnei kāwanatanga, taupatu nei te iwi Māori. Rātua tahi Oriini Kaipara.
E tino whakaroa. E whakaro nui ana I te nui. Which one do I sacrifice first is what I'm hearing. My reo, our babies, our kaumātua, our wāhine who are being decimated left, right and centre, who aren't being noticed by this government, who are out there on the front lines because all their jobs are at risk right now. So if I have to say it hand on heart, I want to save our wāhine from being thrown out on the streets. Pay equity is what I really want to fight for.
Okay. Peeni, Henare.
Ko te mahi nui kei mui a tātou ki te whakahihiko I tō tātou iwi. So that we can get rid of this government in the upcoming general election next year. That will be the purpose for anybody representing Tāmaki Makaurau or any Māori across this country to mobilise our whānau to get rid of this government in 14 months' time.
Tēnā kōrua. E tiwi ko tahi tonu te wāhanga o te taupatu o te kōrero o te wānanga e toi ana I tēnei wā. Whai muri I enei whakatairanga poto, ka riro mā tēnei hui huinga, ngā pātai ki ngā kaitono.
That and much more after this. Kia mau tonu mai.
It's never too late to try something new.
Ka kataina tātou e te ao Māori.
Nau tuara ki Māori Plus me whakaata Māori.
Kania te atu e, kua we hotia he nawe.
They had to do something to stop Māori taking back what had been stolen.
It was not get it done at any price.
There was a lot of anxiety.
And it's fair to say that there have been winners and losers.
The government became more actually aware of the consequences of that through the introduction of the quota management system.
Mana tangata versus mana moana.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
The customary right is the number one right.
Te puaka, te pukunati, ka tiro au I taku rahitanga, ka whakamā.
E tataki te mate huka, e whakapōrere ana te wā I au e moi ana.
Ka kaimaha au I ngā kai kino.
E whai tēnei pukanga puku, ka mate au.
Ōku wawata nui, ko te oranga tonutanga.
Kei te karanga mai a inia, ke haere au.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Best middleweight on planet Earth.
Who is Israel Adesanya?
Izzy, what are you scared you won't be able to do?
You can't tell me how to insult this person. Listen to me.
Who's Israel Adesanya?
You're not gonna control me.
Balvaki, I love you, man.
That's a toll. It's on your soul.
Yeah.
Who's Israel Adesanya? He's the middleweight champion of the world.
Mahira nui ana koutou ki tēnei whakahiototanga te ao Māori News me te hui. Ko te taupatua Tāmaki te kaupapa ko Oriini Kaipara. Rāua ko Peeni, Henare ngā tātai rangi. Kei te hui huinga ngā pātai. Ia nei nā.
Kia hatea, kia tāhuri a ke tātou kia riri at Dalton Reedy. Māna ngā pātai a te whakamininga e whakauwe mai. So enough from us. Time to go to our audience with some pātai to our reporter Riri. Kei a koe.
Ai, ka tika hoki te kōrero e Huama, he maha noa atu ngā pātai kei te puri o te ngutu I tēnei wā. Me te aha kua piri mai a Precious Clark. Hei waha I ngā kōrero mā Ngāti Whātua ora, kei hahato pātai ki ngā kaitono I tēnei pō Precious.
Tēnā kōrua I aku hoa ko taku pātai. Every day I would choose to be at the decision-making table. And MMP lends itself to coalition rule. And so what are your parties currently doing to build relationships to be a preferred coalition partner?
Ka pai. Peeni Henare.
Well, we meet regularly with Te Pāti Māori. We meet regularly with Te Pāti Kākāriki to talk about these matters that are important to us. We can find common ground on a number of matters that we know we all support. But we can always agree to disagree. I mean, I look to my whakapapa and ka pērā tonu I ngā wā katoa ngā pohi. But nonetheless, we can all agree to disagree on a number of matters, yet ka kōkiri whakamua tātou. So we are committed to that because we know that's what we need to get rid of this government.
Oriini Kaipara.
Ai, e tautoko ana I ngā kōrero ne. You know, being Māori, working for Māori, living with Māori, but also being responsible to your own whānau hapua iwi, we know that that is the perfect training ground for all politics, is actually being able to work with your own people and being responsible to them. Kei te mōhio koutou. Hui atu, hui mai, rā atu rā mai, kei te mahi nui te Pāti Māori, especially Rāwari, Debbie, and those our whanaunga, Maria Mino, Hana Rafiti Maipi Clark, and Tākuta down in Te Taitonga meet regularly as well with their counterparts, with the Green Party, as well as Labour and other parties. Who they are, kaore au I te mōhio, but I do know it's Greens and Labour for good reason, because, like Peeni said, we can agree to disagree. We do have the greatest intentions for Māori, but it's how we approach it. And I suppose that's the difference between Te Pāti Māori me Māori ra wātu, ne? So what does that mean? Kia tika, kia pono, kawe rukahu, kōrero hāngai, whakaea I ngā raru I te wā o te hui kawe whakahoki ki waho. Kia utonu ki te reo o te hapori tonu, me ngā take nui e whaipanga ana kia rātou. Kei konei ki taku taha, we have Tū Te Māori Paupare from the Pride Project. Tū Te Māori, what take would you like to raise with our candidates here tonight?
Kia ora koutou. As a kaiarataki matoa in the prevention space of offending, my pātai would be, would you remove the boot camps, and what would your alternative be?
Tēnā koe. Wai te pātai, Oriini.
Absolutely, that is one of the many. If I go back to which bill will we repeal first, that's actually right in there. Mokopuna Oranga Tamariki is another one. The repeal of the 7A, Section 7 at AA, but also the responding to serious youth offending within the Oranga Tamariki Amendment Bill, and that is referring to youth camps. Yes, absolutely, we're pushing back against that. You know, my koroua used to be a part of Mātua Whāngai back in the rā. You know, Mātua Whāngai, I believe, was a blueprint for whānau ora. Whānau ora is a holistic approach. We're not just aspirational in its intent, but it's realising what are the huarahi e mohio nei tātou i te ao mātauranga, i te mātauranga Māori specifically. So we have solutions.
Over to you, Peeni.
Oh, absolutely. We fought really hard against this government. Willow Jean Prime led our fight against this government with respect to the waste of money, waste of time, and the kaupapa that hurt our tamariki instead of helped them. We know that it sits with whānau. We know that it sits with whakapapa, and we've got a job to do to make sure that we get rid of what this government has done and empower our people to support our tamariki.
Tēnā koe, tēnā kura. We have unfortunately run out of time. Aroa mai e te whakamihinga i te kāpaki-paki a ngā Māori. Engari koe. Engari koe tai atu. Don't clap. Don't clap. Throw money to the hosts. We're now going to come to the closing comments of our candidates. I te mei timata i a koe Oriini, koe riro mā Peeni, tēnei wahanga pākarukaru ko tahi miniti te roa. E karo tēnā koe.
Tēnā kōrua, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou. Tāmaki Makaurau has a choice, and we've got some important decisions to make sure that Tāmaki Makaurau has its strongest voice and the ability to deliver for our whānau right across Tāmaki Makaurau. Whether you are on your reo journey or your whakapapa journey, or you are tied to our whānau back in the marae, back in the wā kāinga, we are here for everybody. And that's the job and the challenge in front of us, to bring us all together forward on this waka for the betterment not only of Tāmaki Makaurau, but for Aotearoa Whānui. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou, e puta ki te pōti.
Tēnā koe. Tēnā koe, Tēnā. Kei a koe Oriini, kei a koe te wā.
Tāmaki Makaurau, kua tae te wā. Kua roa tātou, e whawhai ana, kua roa tātou, e tāmi ana e ngā kāwanatanga, oroto i ngā tau. Kaua te kāwanatanga o tēnei wā, engari ngā kāwanatanga i mua. Kei wareware tātou, te takutai moana, ne? Kei wareware hoki tātou, ki ngā kino, e ā mai nei runga i a tātou. Ko tahi ana ki te Pāti, e whakapono ana ki a koutou, ka mutu, ka whawhai pautekaha mō tātou, te Māori, ko te Pāti Māori. Tāmaki Makaurau, the time has come. You didn't march along with everybody who started in Te Rerenga Wairua right down to Te Whare Pāremata last year to go backwards. You marched to go forwards. You marched for change. You marched and told us all back then, and you're still saying it now, we are ready for transformation. Allow for those of us that you all in this room have bred over the last 40 years, and you continue, because you continue to put your tamariki into puna reo, into kohanga reo, into kura rumaki, whatever space te reo is alive. So, whakapono kia koutou anō, when you vote for me, you are voting for you, you are voting for Tāmaki Makaurau.
Kia ora. Ko te wā, e aku rangatira, tēnā kōrua. Thank you for your participation tonight. We wish you both well, and in the end, no matter who wins this by-election, Te Ao Māori does win at the end of the day.
Tēnā kōrua. Tēnā kōrua. Ko whai ngā tātou mahi ki konei mo tēnei raro pō te he tēnā rā koutou I te huri aroro mai. Ngāti whātua tēnā koutou I whakatau ake I a matu ki tēnei whare ātāhua, ki tēnei whare Māori e mihi ana. Koutou I te huri aroro mai ki tēnei whakahiotatanga a Te Ao Māori News. Me te hui, aku mihi nui, wa māua mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Me taku hoa whakataki a mani tēnā koe.
Tēnā. Ko tahi tonu te korero nui e toi ana, koutou o Tāmaki Makaurau. E puta ki te pōti.
E puta ki te pōti. Ke hatia e ngai wike mau. Ki te tūranga o taputapu a te haumi e hui e tai e. Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui i tautoko.